It's time to hammer.
Now I gotta really try hard.
Shut it down! Somehow it's the best.
Beyond Chunks Podcast.
Yum chunks!
Welcome to another episode of After the Credits. I'm here with Sean.
That's me. I'm Sean.
Ryan.
Hey.
And Chewy.
Hey, how's it going?
I pointed at every one of them to emphasize, but you can't see that.
But who are you?
I'm nobody.
What are we listening to right now?
We're here to talk about not Harry Potter.
Try again.
We're here to talk about what's the name of the movie?
Well, I don't blame you. It's a stupid title. Wait, what is the name? Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald.
Yes.
That thing. We're here to
Part
talk
of the
about
Wizarding
that
World
thing.
of Harry Potter. That's
Right.
all part
Yeah.
of the title as well.
So, Harry Potter 10.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is.
This is the
yeah,
10th
it
Harry
is
Potter
10th.
movie.
I can count. I will not be participating because I am peacefully protesting this movie by not watching it.
Well, peaceful.
As opposed to the people violently protesting this movie.
They're out there.
Well, you know how Harry Potter,
Sorry,
they started
dozens
counting
of
the
them.
movies by years? Like, oh, this is year 5, and that's what you see on, like, the
Yeah.
box
Yeah.
cover now. So this should be Harry Potter year negative 74.
98.
Yeah.
But before we get into the nitty gritty, and I bow out and zone out, let's catch up with what everyone's been doing. What about you, Chewy? It's been a while since we've heard from you. What's been going on?
Yeah, it's been a while since I...
When was the last episode on Venom? Oh, that had great
Oh,
episode.
we're sorry.
Actually, it
everyone.
wasn't that far back then.
Was-
What
that
a
far
what a
back,
disaster. Well, it was the episode that we published on Halloween. But then we published our Halloween episodes like 2 weeks later. Also, the Venom episode was completely broken and not able to listen to, so sorry anybody who sat through that episode.
It was 2/3 of an episode.
You know, I listened to it and I realized that we could easily have edited Chris out of that entirely.
Yeah.
Like, we could, because I do that on Coracast all the time.
Just
We
edit
would
me
have
out.
Chris used to be in court.
Yeah, he was sitting in a chair. He was in the Carter in Coracast. No, in Coracast we would record
Yeah.
for an hour, and I had to make it 15 minutes. So
Yeah.
I would just
Yeah.
stitch conversations
Yeah.
together, take entire things out of it. I think Chris could have been removed
He
from that
could
episode,
have,
and
but
nobody
I
would have
wasn't
known.
willing to put that much more time into editing.
Understandable. That's understandable. But it would have been hilarious if we did, and then
Yeah.
at the end, you still said,
Bye.
"Say goodbye, Chris."
Well, you won't have to edit me out of this one.
You're
You'll edit
editing yourself
yourself
out very soon. Anyway, yeah, so it was a little while ago. I, as always, have been working. At my school, we just did a production of Midsummer Night's Dream. So I did the entire production pretty much since the last time I've been on the episode. And the show opened, and it closed a few days ago. So, and we did like a little bit of a 1920s slant on it, so kind of jazzy stuff, jazz costumes and music, and a couple jazz musical numbers. It's a fun show to work on, with all the magic and the fairies and special effects. It was a good time. I, as always, I attended I was a chaperone for the final show's after party for the cast and crew, which is always fun because, like, for high schoolers, a lot of them it's like their first high school party, and this one in particular, the cops got called, which was hilarious because they were being too loud. I mean, it's a very like middle class suburban neighborhood, so like, you know, but the cops got called. Actually, I'm surprised of all the high school cast parties I've been to, this is the first time the cops have been called because they all get there and they immediately start screaming just for no reason because they're drama kids. So
The cops?
No, all the kids. No, they just... Teenagers will scream for whatever reason they can. They just scream. That's all they do. So the cops... Somebody said,
remember my
the cops are on their
teenagers.
way. The cops have been called. And everybody's, like, freaking out. And I'm sitting in an armchair, like, eating pasta and drinking Dr. Pepper. And then Mr. Shui, what are you going to do? And I'm like... You're going to jail. You're a criminal. And like,
You just keep eating your pasta.
right, yeah. And then the freshmen who are like, this is their first party they've ever been to in high school are like all looking all worried. And I'm like, I wasn't making noise. I don't know what. I'm sitting right here. I'm good.
How did they know the cops were coming, though?
I don't know.
It was all a conspiracy.
Inside
The cops call ahead now. You didn't know that?
I called the cops.
I like how he insinuates that this is their first party ever, right, in high school.
Not
Well,
all
high
of them.
school.
Not all of them, but-
Because this is like, man, I get it. Drama, theater kids, not invited to the popular kids parties.
No, that's not necessarily. But I did have. See, the thing is, I did have a lot of seniors graduate last year, so there's a lot of underclassmen who are filling in a lot of those roles. So yeah, it's a lot. A lot of them. For a lot of them, it is their first high school party. So that's fun. For being on my perspective of it, that's a good time. So worked on that. As soon as that closed, went on Thanksgiving break, so I've been enjoying some time off. Still gaming. I'm still playing Spider-Man. My save file's at about 75% right now. I just did the big part from the E3 trailer, the big prison part.
The second act, the end of the second act.
Yeah, but I didn't say anything. I said it's a thing about a prison. Also, it was the tech demo.
How did I say a spoiler? I'm saying narrative structure. That's
whatever. I just got to that part of the game, and now the map's all different and everything. Yeah. But I cleared almost everything on the map before all that stuff. So,
but I hope more stuff opens once you hit that.
Right, exactly. So I'm like, oh boy, the map's all messy again. I got more stuff to clean up. This looks like a job for Spider-Man. So that's good. I got a couple gift games. I've been playing this game called Titan Souls that I got as a gift from one of my former students. It's like it's graphic-wise, it's a top-down, kind of like Zelda, the old school Zelda, like Link to the Past. It feels very much like... Have you guys played it?
Yeah.
It sounds
Shadows of the Colossus. It's like
it feels.
Shadows
You have
of
to top each individual boss, and each one has like a different gimmick to it.
I've never played through it, but
you can only take one hit.
Yeah, you can only take one hit, and most of the bosses only take one hit to kill.
Yeah.
Some of the bosses you have to get to like its weak spot and then hit the weak spot. But the other gimmick about it is you only have one arrow, and once you shoot it, you have to hold the button down to pull the arrow back. And sometimes that's part of the mechanic because the arrow gets stuck in something, and you need that to move something.
That's cool.
So yeah, that's fun. But yeah, very Shadow Colossus-like, kind of Zelda-y. And then also it's got kind of the Cuphead style, like you're gonna die a lot and you just have to you have to keep playing the same thing, which pattern. I think this game is not designed well for that type of gameplay because you'll die, the game will load, you go back to the map, you have to trek back to the dungeon, try again, and then die immediately, and then you have to keep doing that. Whereas with Cuphead, you die, hit the button, start again, and you can die 30 times in the span of a couple minutes in Cuphead. And I wish that it had been designed a little bit more like that. Whatever.
I think it was designed a little bit more Dark Souls-esque.
Yeah.
Like, you're meant to die, but it's meant to be punishing to push you to figure it out quicker.
Right, but it has the opposite effect for me sometimes because there's only so many times I'm gonna try the same boss and try it. Whereas with something like Cuphead, hours will go by and I'm still trying the same boss, and it's because I can it's like an addiction. I can just hit that button and try it again, and that's kind of the difference there. But it's fun enough and it's balanced enough to where I will keep playing, but I put it down quicker than I would other games that are similar to that. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I've been playing. I just started a game called Talos Principle.
I heard when that came out like a year or 2 years ago. I heard it was really good, but I haven't played it.
It's a Portal style. I mean, it's first-person puzzle. I'm barely into it. I've played about maybe like 5 of the maps or so. I've only just started. But
I think that's on my wish list, so let me know if it's any good.
Well, it's only I think it and all of the DLC is only $9 right now.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, okay. So you probably should grab it if you're interested in it. It's a good deal. It's fun so far, but again, I barely scratched the surface of it. But you're I think a robot. And you're in some kind of garden, and has the portal thing where it doesn't tell you what's going on, and you kind of gives you information as a time. And then also, I've been playing a little indie game on Steam called Golf with Your Friends, which is a game I've been playing with some of my former students because they gifted that to me too. But it's basically just online multiplayer miniature golf, and it's really dumb. And it has Steam Workshop on there, so it just has people's really stupid miniature golf levels.
This intrigues me.
Is it like, you remember that game a couple years ago? It was a browser game. It was like the Nabisco mini golf thing. Do you remember that? It was like branded with like Nabisco or Keyboard Elves, and it was in the browser, and it was a little mini putt golf.
I maybe know what you're talking about.
Everyone was playing it. You guys, if you saw it, you'd remember.
Maybe.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
This is in full 3D, which is cool,
and
it's and all you need is a mouse. You just like flick the mouse, and there's I don't know. It's really dumb, but it's a fun just like, hey, do if you want to just go on Skype with all of your friends, well, you may as well be playing mini golf, right? Like, it's barely a game.
Yeah.
Did anybody here ever play Dark Cloud 2?
No.
No.
No. In each one of the dungeons, there was a little mini golf game, and so you would run
That's
through
what
the
happens when you
dungeons.
explore dungeons. There's
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
mini golf in dungeons.
I don't know. It just reminded me of that. I always had fun with that.
And lastly, I swear, I am going through the Harry Potter series again on Audible. So that relates to what we're talking
That's
about.
cool.
Who's reading? Is it a
It's Jim Dale. He's done all the audiobooks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We listened to book 7, or 7, right?
Yeah, that's a fun story for the podcast.
Yeah.
When the 7th book came out, me and Ryan and a handful of our friends, we all got the book at the midnight release at Barnes & Noble. We also got the audiobook on CD. We went to a friend's apartment and we listened to the whole thing straight through.
Yeah.
And we took breaks, and we took a couple nap breaks, and we had just like a whole freezer full of frozen foods. But we
How long
but we
was
all
it?
it's
Really
40,
long.
right? It's like 40 hours.
silence your cell phones.
It's like movie theaters.
The recording itself is 21 hours long. It took us, I think, 25 hours to get through it.
Yeah, I didn't finish it. I had to go to work that day.
Okay, yeah.
But
I was one of the ones that finished it. I'm very proud of myself.
yeah, I think I heard the story afterwards, but the team whittled down.
Oh
quite a
yeah,
bit. Yeah.
because it started off with like 15 people.
Yeah.
and I think
It was a big group.
only.
Too many people died.
Some people realized this was a huge mistake.
Oh yeah. Oh, I realized that. Very quickly. I made it to the
Management of my
end.
life.
But like all
we-
good mistakes, you follow through.
Yeah.
You don't give up
It was
halfway through a
like
mistake.
I equate it with like when we waited overnight on the street of San Diego to get into the Korra panel.
Yeah.
Look, I'm glad we did it.
Yeah.
I would never do it again.
Yeah, it was-
But I am glad to have that memory and to say I
Yeah.
did something so over the top and ridiculous because it's a good story. It's a good
It is a
icebreaker
good story,
story
yeah,
to tell.
it's fun.
It's a fun memory in a weird way. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's that's that. That's everything I have to share.
Talking about books.
Talking about books.
Talking about books. Did you guys? I don't know if you've read them, but did you guys hear that Dark Age got pushed back?
Again?
So what's crazy is that I was looking this up last week, and it still shows the official release date on like Wikipedia and on the official whatever site as February. But if you look on Amazon, the release date got pushed back to
Because
July.
I had it pre-ordered on Audible, and I got a message saying this has been pushed back.
Yeah, so in fact, I saw that exact same thing. I wasn't looking on Audible, but I was just looking for the Amazon. Oh, can I like just pre-order, buy it on Amazon? He's like, this title will be released on July 7th. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean July 7th?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's
So I got super sad. But anyways, Ryan, what have you been up to?
Oh. Okay, well, I've been watching some shows. I've been trying to get through Sabrina. About halfway through. I'm enjoying it, but I'm kind of like waning of interest.
I finished it.
So yeah, maybe, I don't know.
I don't know if we want to do an episode on it, especially because I think people's interests have died. I do have I have lots of thoughts on the show, but I don't know.
I got to episode 3, and I'm like, I don't think I'm the target demographic for this thing. I'm bouncing.
Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's worthy of a podcast because there's going to be it'll be more interesting rather than just saying we all liked it or something.
Well, I suppose, I mean, yeah, we won't get super in-depth
Sure.
into it now, but, and I won't go into spoilers, obviously, because you guys haven't finished it, so I don't even want to spoil for you guys. But in a lot of, like, I feel like there's a lot of cool ideas that I appreciate and really like that they're trying to do, and sometimes it works, but so many other times it does not work, and I just am like, what? This doesn't make any sense. Like, and then also, too, there's parts where it feels very like a 90s show, by which I mean the production budget seems pretty low. It might be because we're spoiled, like, especially right after Haunted Hill House and like, I don't know, HBO show like Game of Thrones, like these production budgets are, the production values are really high. There's like, do you remember like Next Generation? Well, I'm sure Ryan does, but if you guys ever watched Star Trek, like the 90s Star Trek, there was always a cave that looked identical no matter what planet they're on.
Yeah.
It's like, this is the cave. Oh, it happens to be the exact same looking cave. Like, there's things like that in the Sabrina show where it's just like, wait, what? Okay, why are they all in this, like, it's this 5 people and it's supposed to represent, like, this huge community, rabble, and it's just, like, 5 people, and the set is clearly just, like, a sound, like, very vague, not even well disguised, and so things like that kind of start peeking through. But I think ultimately it's just like, this doesn't make sense. Like, I kind of appreciate that, like trying to subvert the it's Satanism, but it's not evil. I'm not evil. We worship Satan,
right?
But then there's human sacrifice and cannibalism, and it's hard to justify that as anything but evil.
But isn't that evil?
I don't know.
I know
so, anyways,
so anyway, trying to get through that show, but in between episodes of that, I watched the entire series of Homecoming on Amazon, which I almost feel I would say that is worthy of doing a podcast.
I do want to watch
if you guys
that.
are interested,
I will watch that.
I would recommend it. So it's by the guy who did Mr. Robot, Sam Esmail, I think his name is, and it is a good show. It's almost worth watching, not even for like the story, just for the show making. It's almost like there's two entirely different shows going on at the same time. One is there's an actual story being told, and that's cool. But then,
stories.
Yeah. But then there's another entire show going on where it's just all about show making and how the show is shot and the music and the acting and just composition and all those things. So there's like an artistic side that is all about that.
Yeah.
I could just do a podcast just on how they made the show and not even mention Julia
story
Roberts
or the characters or anything. That's interesting.
So,
but I mean, it's not like, well, I don't know, maybe a spoiler, you don't have to tell me, but by all those aspects, it's not like some weird meta thing where it's like, part of the show is behind this, and then in the shot, you can see the stagehands.
But it's all those elements that I mentioned are so like heavy.
That
and whatever
it just forces you to.
It's almost exactly. So, and I don't know, and I all those elements made me love the show, but the story was fine. So there you go. And I started watching, or rather listening to, Shawnee recommended the Star Wars original radio broadcast. And though I was not, what I got was not what I expected, despite how well you described it.
But
it, for any Star Wars fan, I keep saying watch, but listen to this. It's this resource, this like well of interesting Star Wars lore that is just buried and it's been around for years and years and years, and especially now with just kind of like the resetting of the canon and stuff, it's almost like, this is one little piece that Disney's forgotten about. Ha ha ha. This is like, and to consider all the stuff that they talk about to be canon, you're just like, this is pretty goofy, but I love that this is part of the Star Wars universe.
All the back stuff with Leia, I mentioned on the episode how they like kind of lead up to how she gets the Death Star plans, and like the scene in like her father's like dinner chamber, and they're having that Imperial officer, and they just like get in a struggle, and it's like, no, don't what? And then you hear blaster fire go off, and you're like, they just murdered some Imperial officer, and they got to cover it up, and she's hiding the Death Star plan. Yeah. And this is all before the movie takes place.
Right.
But then even just like throughout the movie, there's a whole bunch of stuff on Tatooine, obviously, with Luke primarily, but there's stuff more with like Han, and like, they even mentioned Boba Fett because this was recorded in 81, so Empire had come out at that time. So they like pepper in a few other things, but like all the Luke, like they call him Wormy, and just like you're never gonna get anywhere, Wormy. You're a moisture farmer, not a hero.
Luke was so glad to be with new friends, so that's
it sounds like a really toxic relationships that he had with all his Tatooine friends. Not good for him.
It totally felt like a 50s like biker, like, like greaser atmosphere. We're like, this is weird. This is part of the Star Wars.
How far are you into it?
I'm not that far. Okay. There's quite a bit. I'm on episode
obviously
5 or 6,
it follows the movie after some point much closer, but even near the end, I still was surprised at how much I liked even the stuff that was almost word for word what was happening from the movies. It's still just like, it made me appreciate it in unexpected ways.
It makes me like, it just makes me really love Luke Skywalker. Like, he just becomes this kind of reminds you of why you were charmed by him in the first place, I think. And the fact that it's Mark Hamill.
Have you got to when Han has entered yet?
No.
The voice actor for Han is like,
well, you warned me, and like Darth Vader's pretty rough.
Yeah, Darth Vader's a little bit rough too. I like it's different than Carrie Fisher, but I like the actress a lot.
Actually,
who plays
first, it's like, it's not her, but she's still fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's that. But then in the same vein of like audio medium, I started listening to this. It's an audiobook, technically, or at least that's how it was sold, but it's really more a composition of like podcasts. It's called Hi Bob, and it's all about Bob Newhart, who I don't know if I'm a huge fan of. We grew up listening, or rather watching his shows, and I didn't really know enough about the man, and so he hosts this. It's more like if someone were to do a podcast for a year and then just compiled those episodes into, say, a 4-hour segment, that's what this is.
Okay.
So it's an audiobook, but it doesn't. You can't find this in a book form because it's all just Bob talking to other comedians. And it's almost like him interviewing them about how they got their start. What is their experience of being a comedian? So anyone who's a fan of a bunch of comedians: Bob Newhart, Jimmy Kimmel, Lisa Kudrow, Sarah Silverman, Conan O'Brien, all these guys. They go back and they talk about the good old days of comedians like Don Rickles and Jerry Shandling, and all these other guys. So it's all about that, and it's super, just really, for me, this like awesome. I love all that, Judd Apatow, all these guys, Will Ferrell.
Isn't Bob Newhart? He's going to be in his
he's
80s
like
or
late
90s
80s at this point, but he's still holding it together.
Yeah.
I won't say that. I won't advertise this as being as like, oh, you're gonna laugh your pants off. It's more actually awkward and like just weird. But it's just cool to hear people, comedians.
We're all about awkward on this podcast.
100%. So yeah, that's about what I've been up to. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're speaking of an old guy, Bob Newhart. I think we should at least mention, because since last time we recorded this podcast, Stan Lee has passed away.
Yes.
So just kind of
Your segue into that was that because he was an old guy.
Well, yeah, that's how I feel. It's natural progression.
That's his greatest significance. But
No,
sure was
Stan
old.
Lee or Bob Newhart?
Which one are you referring?
Well, I just mean, he was up there and he was 95, right?
Yeah.
I guess that's
Yeah.
what minor. Anyways, but obviously, I don't know. We can't pretend to like do him any justice, but it's just worth mentioning. I feel like how the significant. I don't know. I was talking to Chris. I know we talked about it briefly. When he died or the days after. Like I think you'd be hard pressed to think of or find another human being has had a greater impact on our cultural state of entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously comics, right? And that's enough said there. But just in general, just pop culture in general, movies, comics, the way we partake of it, the way they're structured, the way these franchises exist. He would be up in the top few of people who you could pin it to.
There's like influential
exactly.
people that are modern.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of it, what you can say is what we said like in our Comic-Con episode about just kind of the community and like how it's become about the people.
Yeah.
And like, and also just kind of like what we're doing here. Like,
exactly.
This kind of stuff wouldn't be happening without people like him directly. Like,
oh, for sure.
This is what pop culture has become. So it's, worth
Excelsior.
mentioning. Yes.
We saw him at Comic-Con multiple times. I would walk by him when he was signing and stuff, but I never had the chance to actually meet him.
Yeah, I was kind of talking to some friends about that. Yeah, we would just see him walking through the hall, and it wasn't that like I don't know if we saw him last year or rather this year, but we would see him multiple times in recent years that just walking through the hall like a normal dude.
Yeah,
that's great.
But that was sad, but also just just to celebrate something that like obviously is kind of relevant for all of us. So
the spirit will be carried
yes. on. So that what else? I guess I watched Outlaw King. Did anyone see that movie? Know that movie? It's on Netflix with Chris Pine.
No, I didn't see it.
It was meh, but it was Braveheart too. If you like Braveheart and you want more of Braveheart but not as good, go watch that movie.
Oh.
Well,
it's the sequel to Braveheart, but it's not about. It's like if you remember Braveheart, do you remember the prince guy who like kind of was a Scotsman and he kind of betrayed William Wallace? Yeah. It's his story because in the end he actually does betray the English, not betray him, but he goes back and he was a symbol for the Scottish
was he a
people.
Scotsman or an Irishman?
He was Scotsman.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, it's about that character. Okay. And it's Chris Pine. Anyways.
Oh.
That's all I saw. And I've been playing Picross. That game's fun.
It's not pronounced Picross?
I think it's pronounced Picross.
I don't know.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Picross. It's pronounced Picross.
Picross.
It's fun. It's like Sudoku and logic, deduction, puzzle, and you play it while you're watching TV. So, anyways, that's all I got. Cool. Anyone else? Chris, even though you're not going to be talking about beasts and potters.
Oh man, all those potters.
I've been playing a lot of the Jackbox Party Pack. I played it with different people.
Just by yourself?
No. We played it.
Yeah.
We played it together, and then I played it with some other people too.
It's fun. That's a good game.
I thought you were going to say Jackbot, and I was like, oh, you picked up Moneka, and you're playing as Jack.
No, I can't afford magic face mask.
I don't know if I mentioned this on the last podcast, but shameless plug. Our game's out. Done and done. We're
plugged. Well, like I said, just give us that sponsor money. We'll put you on our we'll promote you in our summaries.
Money to go buy some
on our YouTube.
Carl's Jr.
Yeah.
Catered. These recording sessions are going to be catered from now on.
And since DP10 fell apart, they're no longer.
You can still get those at Target. Anyways, yeah. So super psyched that the game's out. Super the community.
Good.
Yeah.
Proud of you. I'm proud of you, Chris.
Yeah,
You did
it's good.
You do. You work hard.
It's good.
You work hard, you play hard.
You deserve this
and
victory.
you deserve to talk about Harry Potter.
Nah, nobody deserves that.
Alright.
All right.
Okay.
Well, are we ready to get
Yeah,
into
let's
this?
talk about this here movie.
Okay,
talk about this here
so
movie.
before we get into it, spoilers, obviously, spoiler warning. Chris, are you opting out at this point? Chris, where are you
no,
going?
he's going, he's going.
operating.
Oh. Alright.
Oh,
He's gone.
now he's going to
Boy,
really get into
what a guy.
What a guy. That's what we talk about, how we talk about people in an hour. What a guy.
Alright.
So yeah, Harry Potter, or not Harry Potter, but Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. It was a movie. It came out in a movie theater. It had a running time. And things took place between the start of that running time and the end of that
It
running
was a
time.
series of crisp, colorful images that were played in a sequence.
Okay, so for all its flaws, I will say I liked aspects of it, but ultimately this movie is just a freaking mess, I think. Like it was a Harry Potter fever dream. It was just
Yeah, you can't wake up from.
that, I mean, yeah, it was just like a blender of things. I felt like my favorite parts, I'll kind of touch upon some of what I liked, but is Newt. And I've mentioned, I think, on this podcast that how much I liked the first Fantastic Beasts films.
Yeah, briefly. We maybe should talk about
And
it.
so that's one of the reasons why, the reasons I liked the first one so much was that character. And so that character in this one, I still like that character, and it was one of my favorite parts of the film. It may, I don't know why it was in this film. I don't know why anyone was in, I don't know what was happening in this film, but then I also like Dumbledore. I like the aesthetic. I do think that David Yates is kind of helming these films, and with the last three Harry Potter, or four Harry Potters, there is a visual, connectivity that kind of helps bring it all together and makes it feel more like a shared universe and all that stuff. So yeah, sure, that's all great. What did you guys think?
I hated this movie.
Really?
I hated it.
wow.
I hated it. Yeah, I really, really wanted to like this movie, and I liked the last one quite a bit. I kind of went back and forth for a little while, but ultimately, I think I landed on, the last one was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was a fun little romp in the Wizarding World. So I really wanted to like this movie. I had heard reviews weren't kind, so I lowered my expectations quite a bit. It works for Venom, but I should have lowered my expectations even further. I thought, not only did I not like this movie, I think this is the first outright bad Harry Potter movie. I also think that this is like Phantom Menace bad. Like,
That's interesting.
because the thing, and
okay.
I want to use that example because I think Phantom Menace has some good ideas, and I think it has a handful of actually well-made and entertaining scenes, and some like iconic Star Wars-y stuff in it. But at the end of the day, it's a big, boring, confusing mess. And I feel the exact same way about this movie. I feel like some of the stuff that's exciting, it's like cool Wizarding World stuff, but a lot of that stuff leans too much into like, hey, remember this? Hey, remember Dumbledore?
Yeah.
Hey, remember like. And I gotta say, the stuff that I liked the most was that kind of stuff.
It was. Yeah, exactly.
So, and there are definitely things that I liked about it. Like I think you mentioned Dumbledore. I think that's inspired casting. I think he's fantastic.
I was surprised
Oh,
at
yeah.
much. Actually, because that was something going into it. Like, I don't think I'm going to like... But that was one of my favorite... I was surprised how much I liked Jude Law in that role, and how they did that character, that as much as it was appealing to my sense of, like, oh, I know Dumbledore's, it felt like it was something they were legitimately adding to as his character. And the interactions he had with the other characters in the film felt like, oh, this is an awesome Dumbledore encounter, and how he's interacting with these characters.
But I lost the point I was going to make.
You hated it.
Let's get back to that.
Yes. I hated it. No, I mean it.
All right, cool.
What did you think?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, so I'll start off by saying my experience of watching this movie is probably going to skew my opinion of it. So what happened was, I had never seen the original. I don't know why. And so I watched it the day before watching the second one. And then after watching the second one, it was such a jumble of confusing mess. It actually conflated with the first one in my mind. And I could not tell the difference between the two films. Because after watching the first one, I'm like, oh yeah, so it was succinct and I understand that story. Then after having the second one, it somehow bled into the first one and I couldn't tell what was going on. So then the next day, I decided, all right, I'm going to watch the first one again so I can reconstitute my understanding of what these films are. And that made it worse.
Made what worse?
My understanding of the two films as separate entities.
Yeah.
But I mean, joking aside, well, I'm not really joking, but
it's just funny.
Yeah,
it just happens to be funny.
Sometimes truth is funny.
Yeah. But I will say, so I'm already biased against like prequel things, right? Yeah. But I actually felt that the first one did not suffer from prequelitis. So much as the second one did. The second one, they kept saying like, hey, remember this one? Yeah. This thing from the original Harry Potter series? We're legitimizing ourselves because we're making reference to it. Because you enjoyed that one, therefore this must be
also,
good.
most of those references didn't make sense and broke continuity, which I want to talk about later.
Yeah,
we'll get
into that.
Just the whole, like, Nicholas Flamel thing. I wanted to, like, murder someone. Like, why? What is this? Why is he in this movie? Especially, like, at the end of the movie, you're like, why?
Why? What is this? Is what I kept
yelling.
That
was
the whole movie.
What is happening right now?
What is happening? And I kept getting attached to like certain like story threads. Like I agree with you. Newt was my favorite part of the story. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, he's a detective and he's going to solve the little mystery. And he would go on this little detective thread and I'd be like, oh, and then they would catch me in the story and I'm like, who are you?
Yeah, who are
why are you doing
And also, how did we get here?
Yeah.
And why do I care about
why
this?
are any of you characters here?
Yeah.
What?
What?
Yeah.
I mean...
And then it would cut back to the news storyline. I'm like, weren't you doing a detective? Why aren't you a detective?
Oh, there's a monster.
Oh, monster.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about that briefly. The whole idea that this is a fantastic beast. I did the biggest air quotes right now.
There's so much...
just like every once in a while, they're just like, better throw a beast in there, because that's what...
the IP of this, like, I really would like to, like, years from now, to hear it, not like it's a seedy tell-all, but just like someone who was there in the middle of it, some producer or some, studio executive or key grip, whoever, about exactly how the process and the discussion around the title and branding of this franchise from the beginning, even before the original Fantastic Beasts came out.
It makes sense to me. I just hate it.
I mean, it doesn't make sense.
No, it makes sense
from like a stupid perspective.
From a marketing standpoint?
Yeah.
Well, okay, I can maybe...
from that.
They are already... So when the opening credits are starting to get going, right? They showed the Wizarding World logo. Yeah. Which I was like, oh, cool, they have their own logo. I forgot about that. But they had this with the little wands or whatever. Just call it the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, or just the Wizarding World... And then
Crimes of Grindelwald.
Yeah.
Just do that. Just do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they're already putting that as a title card.
Well, I think the worst part of this whole thing, though, is that if it was just a marketing thing, that to me is somewhat forgivable. If you're like, well, we got to brand it that because that's what the brand was. But it almost felt like in a lot of ways it was, like the tail wagging the dog. Like, well, Fantastic Beasts is in the name. We got to put that in the movie. Right. So they're forcing these things that were like... had a major significance on the structure, the pace, the flow, the story, that like because of the brand on the thing that was already because of this other movie that came out years ago. It was like, well, we already branded this franchise the Fantastic Beasts. We can't have a movie in this franchise that's not about Fantastic Beasts, but the movie's not about Fantastic Beasts. Well, we got to have a Fantastic Beast in there, but like there's
if you're reading the books and you're hearing them talk about Dumbledore's mighty defeat over the Dark Wizard Grindelwald, are you like picturing that this random dude who wrote one of the Hogwarts textbooks is bumbling along, letting beasts out of his notebook, stuff like that? Are you imagining that that's really what this story is? Because there's no way you imagine that, but it's all studio. It's what it feels like. That's what it feels like.
So the first film, I don't know that it was they had already branded this franchise as Fantastic Beasts, because it was Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them as the title of the book. It wasn't Fantastic Beasts, and Where to Find Them as the subtitle. Like, that would be a very silly subtitle.
Absolutely.
So they still had an opportunity with the second movie to decide what you want to do with this.
Exactly.
Don't make it stupid.
They tried to have the best. They tried to have both things, and in the end, it just like
which is kind of funny, because I thought one of the biggest weak points of the first movie was that all the Grindelwald stuff was trying to push this whole other story, where I just want to okay, Newt is researching and he's got his notebook or his briefcase and it breaks open. Okay, great, cool, that's the plot of the movie.
Right.
And it just
Simple,
felt like it was too... And so now it's like swinging back the other way, where it's just like the original characters that we spent time developing and letting the audience get to know are now in the way because there's another...
I couldn't feel more strongly about what you just said, other than the friend character and
Jacob
Queenie.
and Queenie.
Yeah.
Why were they in this movie?
Yes.
What? Get out!
You know
Get
what?
out!
Not only did they not need to be in this movie,
They
made me dislike them both.
Yes.
They were Jacob might have been my favorite character from the first movie.
I agree.
And probably because he's the fish out of water.
Yeah.
And
And
you're
we
like,
wanna
okay,
follow
cool,
him
awesome,
and-
right. But like,
Well, it's not just that, but they have nothing to do. But not only beyond them just like being completely out of place in this film, it undermines the stuff that happens in the first film. Just like, oh, remember that? Don't worry about that. I got my memory back, and we're in love. And yeah,
Right.
like,
and before the first movie came out, J.K. Rowling and Warner Brothers said this is going to be 5 movies. But it feels so unplanned. So many of the things feel like they walk back on things that happened in the first one.
Yeah.
How? I don't understand that at all. Like, if they knew that it was going to be 5, like...
Well, and that's what I feel like. I gotta feel that, like, okay, they say it's gonna be 5 because they gotta show confidence in this franchise. They're not gonna say if it does well, but probably it was if the first does well, it'll be 5, right? So they still had to write and make the first one as if it could potentially stand alone, and it arguably does. There are things it does, right? I think the things that you criticize most about it are the things that don't,
right?
But ultimately, the film itself doesn't need that, and it stands on its own. And the Jacob and Queenie stuff, even though it's a somewhat tragic ending, that's their storyline does end on a kind of hopeful note, and it's like that we could have never seen them again, and we would have perfectly
It was a
fine,
nice little
right?
bittersweet romantic ending. It visually was great with the rain. I loved the ending of that first movie. I thought it was perfect.
And that's my criticism. I mean, one of the criticisms of this film is just it felt like, okay, this is a franchise. That means we got to have the same characters, and it's like. It would have been so, like, imagine a whole other, quote-unquote Wizarding World Harry Potter thing where it's not the same characters in each film. Like, that would be a cool thing.
I think that would be a cool thing.
It's almost reminiscent a little bit of MCU in that way, right?
MCU or Star Wars.
Yeah, right?
Extended Universe.
But it's just like, no, those were the characters from the first film, so we got to have them again. It's like, but then what's your franchise? Like, what is this franchise about?
Right.
Is it about Fantastic Beasts? No. It's about just the history of magic. That's what just call it the magic history of magic. I like. So I don't know. So, well, what else? I mean, there's so much more to get.
I remember what I was going to say earlier. If we want to get into plot details, if that's cool with you guys.
Go for it.
But I was thinking about one of the reasons why I was so frustrated when I got out of this movie was. One of the things that really frustrates me about the Twilight series is that, like, I feel like with a lot of those books, they're almost there. And, like, you can alter one or two key things to each one of those storylines and everything clicks into place.
Yeah.
And I feel like, for me, that's the case with this movie. And what I would do if I were Warner Brothers screenwriter and said, okay, here, we're doing one more draft of this thing. All right, so it's not super original. But this is what my idea is. It's better than nothing, which is what this movie was.
It was less than nothing.
Grindelwald has the Blood Pact, which is a new, interesting thing that they introduced in this movie that I guess is different than an unforgivable curse. Because an unforgivable curse, you make or the unforgivable vow. If you make the vow and you break it, you die. Mm-hmm. But in this, Dumbledore says at the end of the movie, once we find out what it is, he's like, oh yeah, I can't move against Grindelwald because we made this this pact, right?
And then he's like, I'll figure out a way to
destroy it. Great. So when Dumbledore meets Newt at the beginning, Dumbledore should tell Newt, hey, you have to be the one to act here. I can't do anything because when I was a kid I did this blood pact, right? And so I can't fight him. So as long as he's got that thing, and the movie, that should be the MacGuffin. That's what the movie should have been about. And it's very similar to, like, Deathly Hallows in that we got to get Voldemort's Horcruxes and destroy him before we can fight Voldemort. But Indiana Jones series is an entire series based on we got to get the thing. Every movie.
You got to get the thing.
That's okay.
Fine plot, especially for an adventure big movie like that. That's perfectly fine. Right?
Especially if it's just introduced at the beginning, right? But
set
that's
it up.
not what the plan is. The plan is still Newt. You need to go do this thing, right? And then the turning point, the switch in the midway is like, hey, new plan. What if we just got that thing, right? And now it's a heist movie. Right? Yeah. And now we're like, what do we need to do? Who do we need to contact to make this plan work? what things do we need to do? Do we need to pretend we're a Grindelwald follower? Do we need to go contact these people? Do we need to... Okay, I need... the Niffler is part of the plan. The little beast that steals it. Right, cool. Incorporate the beast into there, and then all those other subplots can reveal themselves as... That way, at any given time, when I'm sitting there in the theater in the dark going, what's happening? Yeah. What's the point?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to care about?
There was no conflict. What was the conflict of the movie? Up until like the last 40 minutes, I don't know what... I couldn't tell you. Like, there's a bad guy...
Right. The conflict...
you don't even know he really is that bad. Like, you don't understand him.
Let me try to remember. It's that he needs to go figure out what the deal is with this Credence dude. Yes. Right? So their plan is to go into the French Ministry of Magic and go in a drawer and find a piece of paper that's going to tell them. That's the plan, right?
Yeah, I guess that...
I honestly don't know.
Right?
Yeah.
Why wasn't that something that was done in the first movie after this kid like wreaked havoc in New York and someone went, hey, who is this guy? Let's see if we can find a piece of paper in a drawer somewhere and see if we know... Like, how is that the plot of the movie?
It was for the first, 15 minutes for one of the 12 plots. One of the 12 plots. I mean, there were so many other plots that it was... even if that was the plot... Mm-hmm. Now I'm switching to these this half brother who's doing a thing, and I'm supposed to know who he's doing. Then it's switching to Credence himself, and then it's switching to Grindelwald, and then it's switching to Tina and It's like, what is the actual plot?
There's no connective thread. There's no at any given time, I'm not sure why we are in the place that we are in the movie and why the characters are there. The worst of it was when everyone goes down to the crypt, and then everybody has story time.
That was
I've never felt more stupid in a movie. Like, I was like, up to that point, I felt like I was paying attention, like, kind of, like, some things were getting a little fuzzy. When we got to that part, I was like, I'm an idiot. I don't know what they're talking about.
It was hilarious because it was literally 10 characters standing around a room and one character going, oh, this is what really happened. And then, oh no, this is what really happened.
See, that's a thing that J.K. Rowling does in her books, and she's gotten criticism for it. It's a weakness in her writing, but people call it the info dump. Because
it feels like
the farther you get into that series, the longer they get. There's always a scene somewhere towards the end of the book where people are standing in a room and a person goes on for pages and pages and pages explaining all the stuff that we needed to know.
Right.
And at least in this, you get to see the flashback, I guess. But
I suppose.
But this has got to be the worst one that she's ever written.
I mean, you're right. I guess it was nothing I was as maybe aware of. And this, to me, it was just more. It was more comedic, just because it was literally. Like, 8 characters who, most of them I don't know if they even knew each other.
Yeah, like, do you know who this person is? Have you shared a scene yet? Like, I'm very confused.
Because they didn't take the time to establish any of those characters. And the characters that they took the time to establish in the first one, they made me hate or they didn't get screen time.
Okay, so touching back a little bit on what I was saying about Jacob and Queenie, it's too with Credence a little bit, too. Like, at the end of the first one, he dies, and that was the whole tragedy
and then
the
he's
plot
just there.
And then it's like, oh, no, never mind about it, he's fine.
Yeah.
It's like, oh... Okay, so the first one didn't matter then, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the first one, like I said, I rewatched it. You see a little scrap of black poop floating up as if like he survived. I think they did that intentionally.
Okay, well, I guess maybe they learned the groundwork.
It's whatever.
It didn't seem to have many, obviously ramifications. In terms of what happened at the end of the first one, it didn't seem to matter.
No.
Right.
Only in so much that everyone knows that Credence is a thing now. That's the only
weird.
significant.
Right, yeah, that's pretty weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons I like it is because I didn't like it. Sorry, things I liked about it. There were parts I liked about it, and part of it is just because I love the Harry Potter world, and like if you made a Harry Potter smoothie, you just blended everything. That's what this movie is, kind of. It's like, in theory, I would drink that.
Well, that's what I meant to say. Is I wanted to like this movie, because I haven't not liked a Harry Potter thing yet. So I was really rooting for it and going, okay, I'll lower my expectations into the floor if I have to, but I'm going to enjoy this. But yeah, it's not enough to be able to just do all the familiar locations. Like, it was really just this movie. So I mean it was Phantom Menace bad. Any given time, I didn't know who I was supposed to care about or what their motivations were or why anybody was where they were and what they were going to go do next. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. I remember after I walk out of the film, sometimes I'll go to the movies and I'll have a couple drinks because like ArcLight, they serve alcohol, and so I may get a little like buzzed a little bit, and so you kind of like it's a certain movie going experience. It felt like that after I saw this movie. I was like, I don't know if I remembered any. What did I just?
I want to go back to the crypt scene, the big info dump, because once everybody was done talking, the wall moved, and then they were at a rally.
Yeah. And wasn't it Jacob who just like, hey guys, this wall just opened.
Let's walk in here, and then
I think my brain was still trying to process all that. So when they were like, there's something, events were happening, but I think it did alter my state of mind to the point where I felt like I was drunk. Like, what's happening now?
Right.
Is this real life?
It was such. I mean, the funny thing is that all that nonsense was like the first point in the movie where I actually kind of started caring because
I do
the
think
backstory was kind of interesting, and then as much as I hate to admit it, because Johnny Depp is a terrible person, like I thought he was actually all right in this movie. I thought his speeches, like as Grindelwald, like cool. What do we know about Grindelwald? Like he's persuasive. I like
that speech at the end was really good. He's like, I don't hate Muggles or the No-Maj. I don't hate them.
I thought that scene was actually kind of captivating. It was fun to watch, and it was interesting, but the whole circumstances behind why were we even there? And then how that scene ended.
Yeah, why did
I have
it end
a whole
that
other
way?
problem.
I don't understand.
Can I switch gears? Okay, so like it ends in the first like big action scene we've seen in like an hour, right?
Yeah.
And which I don't need action in the movie to be entertained. People can be talking the entire movie if it's well written, it's interesting, right? But like then it becomes this. We got to get out of here, right? Because he's summoned blue fire and blue fire whatever, and there's all these weird. Like people die, and like I don't care about who this person is.
You don't even know if that one's.
Some of them seem very unconcerned about the fire. They're just kind of talking to each other. Right. Like people are like getting zapped all over the place. Why isn't everyone leaving right now?
Right.
Why are some people just like kind of randomly hanging around? What is going on in the scene?
That movie felt like the scene felt like the movie was trying to like this is the big culminating moment where people are going to choose sides, and some people are going to choose wrong, and some people are going to. But I didn't care about any of their choices at all. And then. They go outside, and somebody has a throwaway line. The fire's going to destroy Paris. And I went, oh, okay, I guess there's stakes now.
But then it doesn't.
Everybody stick your wand in the ground.
Oh, yeah.
So every tap square for fire to not destroy Paris. Because I guess probably someone at the studio said there needs to be a bigger climax. There needs to be a big, giant magic showdown in some form at the end. You can't just have it end with a big, like climactic speech and then people fleeing. That can't be the ending. You got to have an action scene, and it felt so shoehorned. And then Nicholas Flamel was there.
Yeah, like
like when that scene when they introduce, I'm like, oh, but that, like as a producer, it's like they only understand that emotion in an audience.
Right.
Like we want to instill that emotion in the audience. Yeah, but. You know, people then keep watching the movie, and they will have emotions after that, right?
I was expecting him to, like, take the Sorcerer's Stone out of the cabinet and just start playing with it, or, like, fumbling and dropping it on the ground. Yeah.
Or, like, the Niffler grab. Like, I don't know, like, that would was there even an interaction between Newt and Nicholas Flamel at all?
I don't know. Yeah, because wasn't he there when he showed up and he's like, hey, what are you doing in my house, right?
No, that was Jacob, wasn't it?
It was Jacob.
Oh, maybe it was. Yeah, I don't know.
God.
I'm never going to watch this movie again, so...
I'm going to watch it again. I'm definitely watching this again.
I really just want to see if I can make sense of this movie. Especially that crypt scene. Does that crypt scene in any way make sense? It's almost like the ending of Solo, right? All the double crossing. Like, does that make sense?
I still have no idea, because when that started happening in Solo, I went, alright, I'm going to turn my brain off until this is all resolved.
Wake me up when they've settled which sides people are on.
Exactly. And then as people are leaving during that scene, people are still double-crossing each other, and I'm like... Okay, alright.
That's what the crypt scene felt like to me.
Everything going into the crypt, the backstories, and then into the rally, all of that...
Well, so one of the I think one of the basically major just like focal point of what is the flaw of everything is none of the character motivations are ever clear to me. I never understand, not never, I rarely understand what any character is doing and why. Or why are they doing this thing?
Mm-hmm. You know how you said that scene made you feel stupid?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a great... Thank you for backing up my claim that this is Harry Potter's Phantom Menace. Because I remember being a kid watching Phantom Menace going, why don't I understand?
Like, mommy, am I stupid?
I remember feeling that emotion going, am I too stupid for this movie?
Yeah.
Has Star Wars suddenly gotten really smart overnight, and now I'm too dumb for Star Wars? That was my fear in 6th grade watching that movie.
It's the ring theory. You just don't get it.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing as that there were, but the thing is now I understand movies a little bit better than I did when I was in 6th grade. So I'm sitting here going, do I not understand because I'm stupid? No, it's because this movie's bad.
Yeah. You can rely on that.
Well, okay, so like I just kind of wrote down a list of questions that
go
I
through
don't know. Like some
you
of
go.
these are
Let's do this.
more broad than others. So things that just kind of didn't make sense.
Great.
One, why are Queenie and Jacob in the movie? Yeah, right. We are going to
Great.
address that. Okay. Why does Queenie switch sides? How does that make any sense?
That
for
was
that
one
character?
of the few things that actually kind
I like
of
the
made
idea.
a little bit
I like
more
the
sense.
idea of
The
it,
idea
but it
that-
doesn't make any sense from her character.
The idea that she's persuaded by Grindelwald because he claims he wants equality between Muggles and magic folk, that sort of makes sense because they're sort of...
But he doesn't claim he wants equality.
But in his rally, that's how he sells it.
He says that I don't hate them, but
Right.
he's not claiming that he wants them to be equal. Not to mention that in Europe, it's fine for them to get married, and she's in Europe. She's fleeing America. Grindelwald's in, like none of, what is that? They were together. Jacob's standing right, hey, I'm with you now. Let's be together.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go over here and not be with you. Because by not being with you, it'll prove that we should be, what is, from that character, not to mention that the reason they separated to begin with was, it wasn't even like they fought. It was just oh, we had a little tiff. You're over there now. I could go walk and get you, but I don't. And now, oh, she's gone forever. Well, she was just right there. You didn't even really fight. You kind of oh, sorry, I didn't mean to call you crazy. I'm sorry about that.
She did apparate away, to be fair.
Did she eventually?
Yes.
I guess.
She did apparate.
That initial conflict made me hate both those characters after loving them in the first film. I love those characters in the first film. In the first scene with them in this movie, I'm like, I ever forgot. I thought I liked these characters. I guess I hate them.
Well, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. She mind controls him, and then he apologizes to her. Wait, what is going on? That was the first moment that I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, he's you should. I should be angry that you mind controlled me and made you there are problems with us getting married. It's not that I don't love, I don't know, all of that relationship and all of their motivation culminating in her switching sides at the end, just to me, again, idea, I kind of appreciate where they're going, but it did not,
They tried. They get gold star for trying.
Okay,
anyway,
so,
continue.
Why was Tina pretending to be on vacation?
What?
Wasn't, she's
I don't
trying to
remember
find
that.
credence, and she sends a postcard to Queenie, even though they're both in Europe. I'm in Paris, enjoying Paris.
So I didn't understand Tina at all in this film. I didn't understand, why was she upset the whole movie and mad at news?
Because she thought he was engaged to her?
She thought because of a newspaper clipping that Newt was engaged to Lita when really his brother was engaged to Lita, and there was a misprint in the newspaper.
Right, I thought that was such a stupid way to create conflict in a movie. There's a misprint in the newspaper. You could have called me. Did they not? Did not?
Or an owl, or a magic animal that sends messages.
Or heck, if there's a misprint in the newspaper, magically fix it.
You know what it reminds me of?
Was it a misprint? It was vague.
It was something that
was.
dumb. But it reminds me of every romantic comedy in the third act when the guy's got to go chase down the girl because they get into some fight. And almost every single time that happens in one of those movies, the fight is hey, if you let me call you. Don't hang up the phone. Give me 5 minutes. I'll clear this whole misunderstanding up.
Yeah.
Great. We're both reasonable people. Now you understand that this was a mistake, and we're all good. Let's be happy now, right?
Right.
Same thing, but worse.
Okay, yeah, but throughout the whole, just that relationship, her and Newt, the forced conflict, but also just where she was going and why she was going there and why she was doing it secretly. Because I guess it was because the American ministry didn't want the Europe ministry knowing she was tracking him. Why are they not working together? I don't know. Okay, I mean, maybe there's an answer to that, and I'm just gonna pick it up.
I don't know what it is,
but okay, moving on. Okay. So now this kind of gets into some of the stuff that if you're a Harry Potter fan and know some of the expanded universe Harry Potter stuff, you know some context for this. But in the film itself, why did Dumbledore have an unbreakable pact with Grindelwald? Essentially, why did he love Grindelwald? they don't say it in the movie, but they were lovers, and that's something they don't explain in the film. She does a poor job of representing blah blah blah. All that stuff is
What I understand is that they weren't lovers. What I understand is that Dumbledore had unrequited feelings for Grindelwald, and Grindelwald knew that Dumbledore was into him and used that to manipulate Dumbledore.
Okay, well, that's fine, and I'm cool with all of that. Again, it wasn't in the film, so there's that. But my point is that so we show that Dumbledore is the only one that can take out Grindelwald. Grindelwald fears Dumbledore, and he got to kill him, right? So, and we know that Grindelwald's evil. They're building up, and he's like really manipulative. Why? It makes Dumbledore seem stupid. Why did Dumbledore ever love Grindelwald? Like they never set up their relationship to begin with.
I think that will be revealed because I think based on the books, there was the feud between the two, and then the brother and the sister, and then the brother dies. I'm guessing what will happen is the sister dies. Yeah. I'm guessing what will happen is the sister will die, and they'll be like, "Let's never fight again," and then we make this pact. I think that's what they're going to build towards. But if you don't already know your Harry Potter history,
what I'm saying.
Then
it takes context.
Then you have to question everything.
But in the film, when they see the mirror and they're like, obviously close, and it's like you were very close. We're closer than brothers. It's like, okay, cool. I can't wait for them to explain what bond they had. Oh, we never know what bond they had, and we just got to take it like.
And that's the thing.
I still want to kill him. I can't, but I didn't want to at one point.
I think that it doesn't get a pass for this, but I think this is one of those things where it's gonna rely on the sequel to make sense of the movie before.
I agree.
And it's kind of like the Matrix sequels, where like at the end of the second one, Matrix spoilers if you haven't seen them, like he gets out of the Matrix and then he controls the robots. Yeah. And it's like the last thing that happens in the movie, and then roll credits, and I'm like, well, this is either going to be awesome or dumb, but I guess I won't know until Matrix 3 comes out. Turns out it was dumb.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, did you have any more?
No, I was just gonna, agree with that.
I have a lot of the little...
Well, I have more questions.
Let's just go through the list.
Okay, so why are wizards impressed? First of all, why do wizards have a circus when they are wizards that could do magic? But why are they impressed by a person turning into an animal? You can all turn into animals.
Yeah.
Why are you impressed by this one that can turn into a snake? I get that in the context they tried to explain it. Oh, it's different. She's still just turning into an animal. You could turn into animals.
Also, you could just lie and just turn into an animal, and then they tell them that they're cursed. There's nothing happening that's special here. No, not only that, but that character was completely pointless.
Exactly. So, and did they ever call her Nagini? In the movie? I missed that.
That was like the first thing. This is Nagini.
They call her that
I missed that
constantly throughout the movie, actually.
I missed it every time. So, anyways.
Well, that is, I mean, that's a recurring complaint for me in the Harry Potter universe, is that the wizards forget they have magic. And you have magic, right? You could just use magic for this situation.
It's like in Potter Puppet Pals, the one that was animated, where they're like, hey, look, it's Voldemort. He's standing over there. Let's go get him. And they just run in with machine guns.
I mean, again, I do think that's a legit criticism, but maybe it's a little bit more nitpicky. And same with a lot of kind of wizard thing, because there's a lot of everyone's using Avada Kedavra in this film, it kind of clashes with a little bit of, from our understanding from the Harry Potter books, and that it was much more of a you had a hatred, but everyone's just throwing them out. Aurors are just whatever, we'll just kill it.
Yeah, plus also, they establish in the books using it as you're straight to Azkaban.
Yeah, exactly.
It's it's why it's unforgivable. Unless they haven't been established as unforgivable.
Maybe they change, after Grindelwald, they set up new rules, and this is
that'd be kind of cool if they ended up throwing that.
What else you got?
Okay, so this goes into the end, super spoilers, but okay. So is Credence a wizard or an Obscura? Are they not the same thing? I thought he was some sort of, the first one implies that he was not a normal human thing.
Right, he was some sort of force of nature.
Yeah, but apparently he's just
I thought
part of the
implication is that it's if you suppress your magic, like he was being in the orphanage, that's what you turn into. You become that.
Was that what it? Okay.
The magic corrupts your
They
insides.
did give us a line, something like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what's established in the first one, that if you with suppress your magic and you're angsty and troubled and the magic really wants to come out, it changes you. So that, I guess, still sort of makes sense. But
I guess that kind of makes sense.
Him being a Dumbledore, I have no idea what's
going
on with him.
So I do think that it felt like force. But I was thinking about this, actually, and So he's not Aberforth, or what's his brother's name?
Aberforth. No,
Aberforth. He's not
Aberforth.
that. So it's like, okay, is there a fourth Dumbledore? Something? So what I actually think might be happening. So there's a lot of history with the sister Ariana, or whatever their sister's name, and you know that she died and was as a result of the fighting between Grindelwald and Dumbledore and stuff. I think, and there was a tragedy in their past with Ariana, so she had to suppress her magic, and for a while everyone thought she was a squib and all that like that.
Yeah.
But so the theory is maybe she was somewhat of an obscura, because she had and that maybe Credence is her daughter, or is her son.
Oh, huh. I don't know if she was old enough to have a son by the
Well,
time she was...
that also, because she died when she was 14 or 15.
Oh, okay.
So that's what, like, it could have got, maybe they go dark and she was, like, Grindelwald or someone else. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
another one of those read between the line things
Yes.
is that, like, in the books it says she was bullied by muggles,
Yes,
but
exactly.
could have been raped.
That's what,
That's a lot of people think that's actually what J.K. Rowling was trying to imply with.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I could see that so Credence was an illegitimate child, or a child of her rape or whatever, and that he was her daughter. But the Dumbledores, obviously, and Dumbledore talks about the family. His father was very ashamed, not trying to hide all this stuff, so they would hide him, and maybe that's why they sent him on a boat across the Americas. Otherwise, why was he on the Titanic? It wasn't the Titanic, but why was he on this random boat that just happened to be in this other boat? Like, that was also just really okay.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a good question to ask, is why was that baby on the boat? And it was fed to us in such a weird way that, like, it's hard to stop and go, like, they're definitely, because J.K. Rowling likes her mysteries, and she likes setting everything up beforehand, but the way everything was done was so dumb that, like, I couldn't stop and go, like, hey, this information is important. I should probably think about why this baby was on this boat. Like, but I never even considered that until right now, so...
Yeah, it just, like, makes absolutely no sense why a rando wizard baby was on a
Some people
boat.
online have been saying that maybe Ariana, like, her Obscurus attached itself to some other...
family or
person,
wizard, and
somehow. The other thing is that, like, I want to talk about canon here in a little bit, because I don't know what else is on your list there, but
those were those are the written down questions.
But the thing is that, like, age-wise, and okay, well, I'll just go into this subject, because this is a question I had about the first movie too. Is this canon to the books or the movies or both or neither? Because the thing is that the Harry Potter books and movies aren't canon to each other, because there are things that in the books and the movies that directly contradict each other. So they can't possibly, the movies of Harry Potter cannot possibly be a representation of the book universe, because they conflict too much, right? So what does that leave us with this movie series, right? Like, what is it supposed to feed into? I don't know yet. And this movie raises a lot of problems because there's a lot of canon issues. One of them is that if Credence is supposed to be Dumbledore's brother, the dad Dumbledore got put in Azkaban canonically at some point. And at the point that he would have been fathered, he was in Azkaban. So that's an issue. But there's a lot of issues like that. If we're talking canon versus the movies, I don't remember exactly the year, but how Dumbledore looks in this movie is not how he looked when he went to go visit young Tom Riddle in the orphanage in The Memory in Half-Blood Prince. He looks physically much more like his older Dumbledore. So,
well, the aging the time thing. Obviously it's implied that wizards live longer. So because even in this movie, best case, Jude Law is in his late 30s, most likely older than that, which means Dumbledore in the modern Harry Potter films would be well into his 130s, 40s, 50s.
Well, then here's the worst one then. According to canon, McGonagall's not born yet in this year.
Really?
What?
Well, how old is McGonagall supposed to be?
McGonagall was shown in the flashback.
No, I remember she's in the movie.
According to I don't remember exactly, but according to canon, McGonagall has not been born in that time for that flashback to occur when she's in it.
Oh, really?
So,
well, in the book or the movie canon?
I don't know where these canons come from.
I mean, if I had to say, I would say they would canonize it with the other
you know how
Harry
Pottermore
Potter
is a thing?
films.
So there is an official Harry Potter canon that exists, which, again, I already have questions about, because book versus movie, that whole thing, too. So that was another one. There was a lot of stuff like that. I'm trying to remember if there's any other... Those were the big ones. Yeah. This isn't the canon issue, but... There's a character who's half house elf, so...
Oh, yeah, they said that. I was like, wait, that can happen? Like, what?
That also implies some troubling things. Or maybe not. Maybe it was a great family.
I mean, as long as it was all consensual, I guess. What else
There
you
was,
got,
let's
Sean?
see. Yeah, I mean, those are made. I guess the other thing too is just like listing all. And I mentioned earlier, but there's just too many characters. Like, not that films shouldn't have good, ensemble complex characters, but like I was trying to think of like, Lord of the Rings or something, which is one of my favorite films, has a ton of characters, right?
Yeah.
But like, let's say you go watch Two Towers. You have like, who are the main characters? You have like 3 or 4 main characters. You have Frodo, Sam, Aragorn. And then you have the support characters who are obviously really important. Aragorn and, the girl, Eowyn. And even Legolas and Gimli, they're primary characters, but I wouldn't call them main characters, right?
Yeah.
In this, though, there's literally like 12 characters who have equivalent screen time.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is that like Newt has as much screen time as the half-brother guy who was on a vendetta kill thing that made no sense.
Right,
with the exact same amount of screen time as Queenie, who had the same amount of screen time as Grindelwald. And it's like, who is the main character?
I was thinking about that point because I was thinking about why does not work in this movie, but it works in like Avengers: Infinity War.
And
I was thinking about Infinity War, and I think if you think about the sequence of that movie, event by like scene by scene, each one either like directly or thematically leads into the next scene, even though that next scene is somewhere else, maybe on the other side of the galaxy.
Yeah.
Right. So it'll be like, okay, cool, everybody's assembling at the Avengers headquarters. Then there'll be a throw-in line towards the end of the scene. What about
Stark?
What about Scarlet Witch and Vision? Oh, we haven't heard from them in a while. Cut to them.
Yeah.
In another country,
Yeah.
Here's what they're up to.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that scene leads into the thing. So it'll either be like, 2 characters are talking about like, oh, Thor's off doing this. Let's cut to Thor, see what he's doing, right? And the whole movie is constantly setting up for the next thing that we're going to see. So even though it's got all of these seemingly disconnected storylines, everything is building towards the whole. And that's really what this movie was missing. And it's partially because it doesn't have a whole. It doesn't have a main thing that everything's building up to, so it feels so scattered and it feels so disconnected and weird. And it's no good.
It's no good.
Yeah, like I knew this. It would just be a criticism because you have to like. There's no way to talk about this without it just being full of criticism, and I wanted to like it. I guess that could be somewhat my feelings. I wanted to like this more than I did, but that doesn't help when you're trying to talk.
I wanted to like this, and it's frustrating that I can't because they could have
they
could have fixed this movie.
The Chinese dragon dog thing. What was that? I mean,
beast.
again, we talked about it was a beast, but like, what?
It was a
looking back
fantastic
on it,
beast.
I don't. Where did it come? Why was it like not being a jerk and asking like, what was it? Like literally, why was it in the film? Where would it come from? I don't remember.
It came from the circus.
You got free in the
circus.
When they were packing up the circus, it ran off or something.
And so he's like, "Oh, I got you."
Yeah.
All right. And then wasn't there someone in his briefcase? There's another person in there, and she's like, "Oh, Newt," or whatever.
Oh, the girl.
I don't think that was his briefcase. I thought that was his apartment. I thought it was his house, and I thought that was where the water rises up.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
That was actually a really cool part of the movie.
That scene was cool.
I enjoyed that scene.
You take that out, and nothing changes.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
But it was a cool scene. But I'm
cool
pretty
scene.
sure that was his
Yeah,
basement.
that was in his.
Perhaps.
Pretty sure that was at his house in his basement. I don't think that was the briefcase.
Maybe.
Also, the brother and leader relationship. What was like? I kind of appreciated that, and even like at the end when she like kind of looked back and was like, "I love you." Like, I like that a little bit. I don't know if it made up. She still died and burned and
For no reason.
Like, you just come with us. No, it's like what's his name from Rogue One? Saul. I'm just gonna stay here. This is my time. You just come with us. No, I'm just gonna stay.
Well, I have one small little thing to add. Like, we kind of already touched on it, but just about like Newt and like his little story is that like I think what we loved about the first one is like his little story or his main story. He's the main driving force of the film, and the relationship he has with Tina, right? Yeah. And like that's like there's a fun back and forth, and there's obviously like feeling thing, and they have a crush on each other, blah, all that BS, right?
Sure.
But this film is devoid of that.
Yeah.
Right. and she's like this like soulless entity throughout the whole film. And it was one thing that was cool that made me realize in contrast from watching the movie, the first one after having watched the second one, is that she's like just a stone brick in the second movie. I mean, the first one, she's smiling and laughing, and she's charming in the film. And there's like this chemistry you feel between her and Newt, and you're like, oh man, there's so much fun in this movie.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. The second movie wasn't that fun. I mean, there was some fun scenes. We talked about those. Yeah. But the whole film, like, they didn't have this energy that the first one did, where you're like, oh, Newt, you're such a charmingly befuddled British fella.
And see, that's the thing, is I don't need that character to be happy-go-lucky, fun, smiling, but I need a reason why she's that way. Right?
Yeah.
And with the original Harry Potter series, the first 3.5 books are fun and whimsical, and everything's playtime, right? And then things get dark and there's stakes. But then there's stakes. So it's okay that it's dark and everybody's in a bad mood.
And you like these characters, they make sense.
And I want, because we've already had fun with them. Yeah, and like, oh no, they're in trouble because I get what is going to happen if they fail. Yeah. And
I mean, I guess the argument would be, well, they blew up New York, so there's stakes now. And I'm like, I guess.
Yeah, but they fixed everything with magic immediately.
Yeah. Right. That's right. Like, it does I guess, maybe mitigate the stakes when magic can repair things in a heartbeat to some degree.
Well, okay, I don't know. I guess maybe to possibly end the discussion on a somewhat high note, I do want to say how much I do like the character of Newt overall. I do think that he was unfortunately given nothing to do in this film.
Yes.
And that was a shame, but I do think the character itself I still liked in the film.
I think Eddie Redmayne is doing a good job carrying
this. I thought he's doing a good job.
I think they had a hard task of replacing, like, okay, who's going to be... We got to have a Harry Potter type. Yeah. And I think they did a good job of creating a character that's different enough, that is likable, that he's got his own little quirks and he's weird.
He's such an original hero.
I like that he's a Hufflepuff because I'm a Hufflepuff, so
that's true.
Representation,
I just like that he's not the cliche kind of, like, masculine...
No, I love that.
He kind of subverts a lot of those things in really fun, interesting ways, and the best parts of this film were those moments, and what we talked about earlier, Dumbledore, and those moments, especially with Dumbledore and Newt. Like, those scenes were the best, in my opinion, the best parts of the film. Like, we know who Dumbledore is, we watch these films, and we're expecting, they're going to have a throwaway, who's this Jude Law? I think he's like, that's a really cool interaction. Like, and he speaks to what Dumbledore is about, and he's aware of his flaws and the mistakes he's made, but he's... I don't know, even his, like, the discussions he had with Lita and just, like, all this stuff to me definitely helped and built the Dumbledore character. It wasn't enough to say the film, obviously, but I gotta say that those things were good, and I do think it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There was some stuff that was in there, there were good ideas, there was stuff that worked, there was some enjoyable stuff, but I do hope that I'm not going to not go see the rest of them. Yeah. So I hope that in the future movies they learn from this and they give Newt and Dumbledore more stuff to do. They play to the strengths of the characters instead of just pretending like I haven't already seen the last two movies. Yeah, I think there's hope that they can right the ship. Yeah, but also again,
I will say I will give it to go back to your comparison. If that I'm fine with this being Phantom Menace because it's not Attack of the Clones. Right? Like, after Attack of the Clones, like, oh no.
Right.
Well, with Phantom Menace, you're like,
What are you saying? I'm going to see the next one. In Red Letter Media, they were like, everybody just saw Phantom Menace and showed up for the second one hoping that maybe we'll just think of that one as the really bad one. Yeah. Right? Like, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we talked this to death. I mean, I'm sure there's other things we could touch upon, but we'll leave it at that for now.
That's fine.
We'll do another episode if we really feel like it later on to get everything else out. But, thanks for listening. Thanks for staying after the credits. If there's anything else. Hey, Chris, what did you think of Fantastic Beasts?
I